All right. good good morning to you from Tallahassee, Florida. Good evening, good afternoon from wherever you are, or depending on where you are. So, quickly, I want to start the first part in this topic I've been planning to do for a very long time: how to change from F2 to F1 student visa or status. Okay. Um, Let me just back up a bit and explain what these terms mean. Someone on an F2 visa is the dependent of a student who is studying on an F1 visa. Okay, so usually for someone who is coming to the US to study from wherever they're coming from as an international student, from wherever they're coming from, these students are given an F1 visa. Okay, and then if they have family members, immediate family members like the wife, the husband, or the children, those ones can accompany the major student on a visa type called F2 visa. Okay, and those students who are on F1 continue to study, but the family member who is on F2 visa cannot do anything in the US other than just be there taking care of the family, taking care of the husband, cannot study, cannot work with that type of visa. They cannot, you understand, officially they cannot do anything, they cannot work. It's just for them to, the purpose of the visa is to have the family intact, to be together so that there won't be separation for a very long time of study or wherever. Okay, so usually we used to have many wives, many some husband. It's usually more of wives on an F2 visa. But the beauty now is that it is possible for someone on an F2 visa to convert or to be a student too. And what I want to be sharing now is how to go about this, how to be a student and how to convert your visa, your status or your visa type to F1 so that you can also study and go to school. Number one, let me say this, that within this past year, uh, between last year and this year, I think I know like 6 or 7 people, wives, ladies who converted from F2 to F1, or who secured admission, went to school, or started going to school. I know like 6 or 7. I think out of the 6 or 7, 5 or 6 are Nigerians. Only one of them is not Nigerian that I actually know. Okay. Those that I've interacted with, those that my wife either has interacted with, or in that manner. All right. So everything I'll be teaching you or telling you is born out of experience, some things that we walk through personally, that we discuss with friends who were walking through that situation too. So it's born out of experience. Number one, it's easier for you to gain an admission and get funding when you are already in the US, okay, than when you are trying to do it from your country, from Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Sierra Leone, India, wherever. It's easier when you're already here. For example, if you're on F2 visa, it's easier for you. Your husband is already in a school. It's easier for you. You can, or your wife is already in a school. You can walk to the school to meet any advisor you want to meet and speak to them face to face. You can always go and meet whoever you want to meet and speak to them face to face. Admission committee, you meet them, you can meet with some of them face to face. Graduate admission, those who are in the international office, those who are in the graduate admission office, you can go and meet with them face to face, speak with them. Okay. Now, one of the benefits of this is it's easier for them to assess you in this light than sending emails and all those stuff from Nigeria, from your country. They can assess your English language. They can ask you questions they want to ask you. They can reschedule meetings. They can do all those things. Okay. It's also easy for you if there's any issue with your whatever application is going on. You can just walk down there and say, "Oh, this is the issue I have. This is the issue I want to resolve." So it's easier for those on F2 to just walk down to the school, get the admission. In fact, I know someone. She got the admission and there was no funding there. I think I probably shared this in one of the videos. And the person walked to the department like, I need funding. Like, I mean, she's already in the US. She's not trying to use funding to cross or whatever. But say, I can't go to school without funding. I need funding. And they saw what they could do, and they tried and they tried, and then they gave the funding came out. Okay, so it's easier to do that. Uh, One beautiful thing again is this: it's easy to build your profile when you are already in the US on an F2. Let's say you don't have that much research experience from Nigeria, you don't have papers, you don't have publications and the likes, but now you're already in the US. You can decide to say, okay, I want to volunteer in a certain lab. You don't need to get paid. I mean, you don't really have anything you are spending your time on that much as an F2. Okay, of course, you can do some other things, yeah, but not particularly you can study, you can go to school, you can work. Okay, so it's easy for you to just walk up to a department of your choice, walk up to the lab of your choice, and meet with the PI or whoever is involved there and tell the person that you want to volunteer your time, learning things in the lab, doing things for them in the lab, just volunteering, just doing things. It's very easy. My wife did that. She just walked up to someone and then we said, "Oh, we want to volunteer. We love what you are doing, this and that." And my wife was there volunteering, learning things, doing stuff. That went into her CV. Okay, so it's easy for you to do something like that. You can just go and volunteer. Now it helps your profile. Now, when you are even applying, it helps you with more people who can write recommendations for you. For example, let's say you've worked in a particular lab. In fact, I know another person who volunteered in another lab like that. She was on F2. She just went to a lab there, volunteered with the PI, started spending her time with the man, learning things, doing stuff. And, she was just volunteering her time, learning a lot of things, learning the research procedures, methodology, blah, blah, learned a lot of things. Now, all these things will come to your CV when you are writing your SOP. All these things will come into play. Now, if you have built enough rapport with the person, I mean, this is part of your experience. The person can even write a what do you call it, a recommendation letter for you. Okay, it's very, very possible. So these are some of the benefits of someone who is already in the US and then who's not, who is in the system, who is in the state, who is in the city. You can walk up to any of those labs, volunteer your time. You are learning a lot. You are, of course, volunteering is always seen as a good thing. You are learning a lot. You are building, building your profile. You are doing all those stuff. Okay. Now, all these things will definitely go into your CV. It will go into your statement of purpose. Now you can apply. Of course, you apply like everybody online. Everybody is applying online. But of course, some of these people will be reviewing your whatever. There are people you've interacted with. There are people who already know you in the department. Okay. Now, of course, it's not compulsory you apply to the same department where you volunteered. Okay. But of course, the department where you want to apply to, it's always advisable to go there and just talk to one or two people. Okay. Talk to one or two professors. That's one of the things my wife, she actually volunteered in a different department in a different lab, in a lab in a different department, and she applied to a different department. Okay. But she went to the department where she was applying and started speak with the person who is advisor today, spoke with the person. They have a very nice chat, a very nice rapport. Okay. Now, after all that has been done and you've been given the admission, remember, funding is usually a big thing. If the school does not give you funding, you have the right to either go ahead with it or not. But if the school does not give you funding, you can still go ahead to the school and tell them, see, I need funding. This is what I need. Okay. I know someone who did that. So I need funding. This is what I need. And then you want the funding to even reflect in your I-20. Okay. Because that's one proof that you have funding to. So I need funding. I want it to reflect in my I-20 and all those stuff. You can walk down to the school and say all these things, and then funding comes out for you. It's very, very, very possible to do that. It's very, very, very possible to do that. Now, let's say you have your I-20, you have everything set, and then what you are needed to do is to now just attend school. Now, you are still on F2 status or on F2 visa, either whichever way you want to see it. You cannot start studying that way. Okay. Now, I'll put a caveat because actually you can study. Uh, Maybe I should do a video on that, but let me talk about it here and then maybe do a video on that to reflect, talk on that more. Actually, you can study, but you cannot study a full load for a particular semester on an F2 visa. For example, if the full load for many schools is for international student 9 credit units, if you're on F2 visa, you cannot do 9 credit units. You can only do the minimum, something lesser than that, maybe eight, seven, six. Of course, that would mean that if there are three, the courses that have been taken in that semester is three credit units, you can only take two courses for when you could have taken three in a particular semester. And then if you take two, that means the next semester you take two. That means you need additional semester to complete that. So it eventually means that for every 2 years you need to spend, you will spend additional 1 year. That's 3 years. Okay. So it's possible for people to do that. You cannot just take a full load on F2 visa. It also means that if you have to do a 5 year PhD program, you need have to take it for like 8 years and something like that. So that's why it's not advisable to do that. But again, it's possible to start studying on F2 on a not on a full load or not on full credits units. You just do it on um, 6 credit unit instead of nine, or you understand what I mean, and then you try to change it along the way. It's possible to do that. Okay, so how did I move to that point? I was saying that it is possible to, yeah, you have your I-20. Now, I was saying that you cannot study on that F2 visa. You need to do something to change it to F1. Of course, I explained that there's actually a situation where you can do not a full load, but half load, something like that. That I just explained. So let's say now you want to change your F2 visa uh, or status to F1. What do you need to do? Now, I will just talk about three ways, two or two broad ways, and then I will categorize each of those ways into different groups too. And then I'll probably in the part two, I'll probably go into detailed explanation and examples of those who actually know that did it. Now, number one way is to do it internally within US, and you don't have to travel anywhere. And then you just convert your F2 status to F1 status. Okay, take note of the words I'm using: F2 status to F1 status, not F2 visa to F1 visa. Okay, because the status, for example, if you are in the US on an F2 visa, for example, it's possible that your visa expires, but you can still be in the US because your husband or wife is on an F1, and then the status will only expire at the expiration of your spouse's program. For example, let's say your husband, let me use a wife and husband and wife, for example. Let's say the husband is the one on F1 who is studying, and then the husband will study will end in 2025. Okay. If the wife joins and then the wife's visa expires in 2023, for example, it's not a problem. The wife can still remain in the States till with the husband till 2025, the expiration of the status. Okay. Now, the only thing is that the wife will not be able to leave the US. If the wife leaves the US, even the husband, if the visa expires, if any of them leaves the US, if they have to come back, then we have to apply for another visa interview, okay, to be able to enter the US. So they need to get a new visa. So even though they are still on status, they are still in status, but because they have left the country, they need a visa to come into the country. So a visa is only required to enter the country, not required to stay in the country. Okay, so you can stay in the country because your status is as not expired, you're still on status, everything is still in place. So you can stay in the country. Okay, so the person on F2 now can change his or her status within the country. So you don't go anywhere, you just apply to USCIS, that's the United States, what do you call it now? C is um, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, I think, something like that. Yeah, you just apply there, and then they do all the processes for you, apply with your I-20, your admission, whatever, all those things, and then they do all the processes for you, and before you know it, they send you back a message, document that the status has been changed. So that means you are now on F1 status and you can study, okay? And you can study, but you still don't have an F1 visa. You have just changed your status. That means if you go out of the country, for you to come back, you will need to go and apply for a visa again. Okay, but it's good. I mean, it's F1 status. You don't even have a business going out of the country initially. So everything is fine. Okay. Now, the problem with that now these days is that because of it used to take like, let's say, 3 months, 6 months initially, like before COVID hit. Now that there is COVID, or not since there has been COVID, it's been taking like 10 months, 1 year, and all those stuff. And many of those schools, even the USIS, have been advising people not to use that method again because it's taking a long time now. Okay, I know someone who was on it for 18 months. Okay, eventually the person got it. I know someone who was on it for 18 months. Okay, in another video, I will explain the details because the person had a lot of challenges and things the person had to do before surmounting those challenges. So, because it's taking so long time now, they are now advising people to go out of the country to go and sit in for a visa, to go and attend the visa interview so that they can change the F2, or they just apply for interview normally, and then they can get their F1 visa and come back into the United States. So it's like you just travel out of the country, then you come back in. Okay. So now uh, what you are doing when you are traveling out is not like actually changing the F2, but it's like applying for F1 and you are getting it and you are coming back in. Okay, but you just have to travel out of the country. Now, where can you travel to? They usually advise, of course, majorly they advise people to travel back to their home country to attend the interview. Many people don't want to do that, especially if you are from some countries where it's so difficult to get the visa, where it's the grace of God in quote before you can get the visa. Many people don't want to do it. Okay, many people don't just want to travel back to their home country. Okay, but again, if you don't want to travel to your home country, there are other options. You can travel to neighboring countries to do it. For example, you can travel to Canada to change the visa. We have people, I know someone who once went to Canada to change from F1 to F2. Okay. And then I've heard of someone, I don't know the person exactly, who went to Canada to change from F2 to F1. Okay. So people do it. They just quickly get the Canadian visa and then rush, travel to Canada, get an interview date, and then come back, attend the interview, get the F1 visa, and come back in. Another option is to travel to Mexico. Many people do that a lot. This period, I know, like four, like three. How many people went to Mexico to change their? Is it two people? Yeah, two or three who went to Mexico to two. I think two to change. Yeah, two who went to Mexico to change their visa. Uh, not change to attend F1 interview, and they got the F1 visa, and they came back to the United States. I know Nigeria, and I know someone from Nepal went there too. So it's very, very possible to do that. Another option is, which men don't like, is go back to your home country and then so that you can change your visa, apply for F1, and then come back to the United States. Of course, in applying for all these things, you can stay in the United States and do all those things, apply for interview, apply everything. Since it's online, you don't have to be in that country to be able to do all those things. You don't need to leave the country to be able to apply. You can do everything, apply for the interview, pay for visa interview, get interview dates, do everything from the United States, and then you go to that country and do it. Now, the disadvantage for countries that are not your home country, for example, Canada and Mexico, is that you have to have their visa too. So it's like you have to apply for Canadian visa for you to be able to enter Canada. Okay. And then once you enter Canada, you can you can attend the interview. Of course, you'd have applied before leaving. You can attend the interview and come back to the United States. Same thing with Mexico. You have to apply for their visa and then get in there, attend the interview, then come back to the United States. Okay, so that is what you just have. But of course, if it's your home country, Nigeria, for example, all you need is your passport. You don't need any visa to go back to Nigeria. So you can quickly go back to Nigeria, attend the interview, then come back to the United States. That is very, very, very possible. Of course, some of these visas, when you're in the US already, they are not really difficult to get. Actually, they are not really difficult. Medical visa is very, I mean, it's easy to get. People just go walk into their embassy, people get it. Okay. So what I would do now, I want to end this stream now. What I would do now is to later talk about each of these processes, each of the different ways. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. I can see you there. Talk about each of the processes, how those I know how they went through it, even my wife, what she went through, what she did, and all those stuff before um, now fully on the standing F1 visa. And then I tell you, nothing is actually easy. Even those I know did it within the country, nothing is easy. Nothing is easy. Nothing is. The one I know spent 18 months. She did a lot. Of course, I know someone now who just spent like 3 months just this year, just like 3 months, and that's still surprising. I think that is just a miracle on its own. Okay, like 3 months, and it's possible because of the nature of the course the person is doing and all those stuff. I will talk about all these things in another part because this is 20 minutes and I have to jet out. I will take we have, since I have just few people here, just few people. Let me, if anyone has any question, I'll quickly take that in 1-2 minutes before I rush out. All right. So you can change from F2 to F1. It's very, very, very possible. It's very possible. Very possible. All right. Since there is no question, I think I'll just end this stream here for today. Next time when I have the time, I believe I'll talk in details about what each of those persons did, what my wife did, what everybody did. We can always learn from one another. We can learn from one another. But of course, some of those uh, ways of changing it involve some risk, and you must be ready to take it if you want to do it. If you ask yourself, is it worth the risk to have to do this travel and other stuff? Sometimes it's worth the risk. Sometimes we've seen people got and who got stuck in another country and they're not able to come back, or they found it difficult. It took a long time for them to come back. We'll discuss all those things in another part, in a part 2 of this video. All right, thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Really good. See you.